Welcome to Clone Questions Live, Episode 3. Let me start this on the Instagram here. We are now live. Welcome to Clone Questions Live, Episode 3. Welcome. We'll wait for everybody to come in. Say hello to everybody. We're going to get some questions answered that came in through my story post and some comments on the post that I did as well. And if there's any active questions that pop up in the chat, we'll get to those as well. Let me just make sure we're all good on this side. Welcome to everybody. If you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. Please let that be the first thing you do. Let everybody know where the Clone Coach team is. We're all over the world, man, which is pretty awesome. So, you know, holler with letting us know where you're joining in from. Here's our first question. Do you like SNS 209 for thrips? I haven't really used SOS 209. I would have to see the active ingredients in it to really see if I've used a product that compares to that. But for thrips, you know, that's going to be a tricky one. So I haven't used that product per se, so I don't know firsthand, my friend. But welcome to everybody. Let us know where you're joining in from. Clone Questions Live, if you got something to burn up with Clone Coach here. As a reminder, this is every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Clone Questions Live. We got, it's like the UK, we got NYC, we got Grand Rapids, Michigan, Grand Rapids, and another one's in Michigan, so a couple people out there. We got Massachusetts, Michigan, Louisiana, Toronto, Canada. Oregon holds it down, you already know. Jersey, Sumner, Washington, just outside of Tacoma, Washington. Arizona, Mexico, Florida, Massachusetts. Let us know where you're joining in from, everybody. We got Hawaii, we got Oklahoma. We got another Oklahoma, Colorado, Michigan, Ohio border, New Mexico, Nova Scotia, Canada, another Nova Scotia, LA, Aruba, Tacoma, Washington, Philadelphia, PA, Coachella Valley. Hey, I'm in Coachella Valley too. Let's see here. I skipped a few questions while I was scrolling through all those things. But let's get into some questions, y'all. What do you think? Give it a little like if you're ready for some questions to be answered. And, you know, I'll do my best to answer them to my knowledge. And we'll see what we could do to give you some value. So we got a question here. Do you pop your domes off every day and wipe them down for how long each day? Callie in the house. Nice. Yes, after the second or third day, I begin to burp and wipe the domes daily. And for how long? That doesn't take long. I mean, when you pull a tray out, you grab it, you tend to the tray. If anything, you're wiping, strain that towel, whatever, put that dome right back on. That process lasted on that one tray maybe 30 seconds. So it's not minutes or, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or half an hour or anything like that. It's just basically as long as it takes you to take the dome off and burp and wipe it, put it right back on. Good question. Went out already. But if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. We got people from all over the place here. We're going to get into some questions. Scrolling through the chat here just to make sure I catch up and stay on that. We got a question here. What's the best treatment for root aphids? So I think I'm gonna come out with a little, mini guide for root aphids, but I don't have 100% guarantee on it. But first steps first, a knockdown. I always say if you're gonna go to war with these root aphids, they're everywhere. Especially if you're seeing them, that population is probably pretty high. Start with a knockdown like a pyganic, which is really fast acting, no residual, contact killing, pyrethrum, botanical pyrethrum based insecticide as a knockdown. Knock everything down, and then you're going to stay really on top of things like azadirachtin as an anti-feedant. You're going to get some Bavaria bassiana to get the spores on those insects to start, drying them up and eating them up. Sticky traps as well, just to catch whatever you can and kind of monitor your progress. And just things like that are insecticides that are going to really attack things. That knockdown pyganic is not something you should be rotating in weekly. It's like a knockdown, then a few weeks of all these other insecticides to really bring down that population. And probably after you've brought down the population a bit, after a few weeks, I'd get in touch with your rep and get some predatory insects as well, to start just hunting down anything that's just sprouting up. So that should get you 80-90% there. I can't guarantee anything because I'm not in your situation, seeing the other aspects of your grow. But if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. This episode 3 of Clone Questions Live. Let me light this back up. Colorado in the house. Let's see here. Sulfur for thrips and veg. There you go. Rotate sulfur in there. I love seeing that when the community's helping each other out. It's all about giving value back to each other, man. I love seeing that. And predatory mites or nematodes. Once again, team helping the team right here. I love it. We got Tennessee, I think. Tennessee in the house, Nova Scotia, Aruba, LA, Tacoma, Washington, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Coachella Valley, Boulder, Colorado, Ukraine. Another question for Rude Aphids. Got that answered there in the team. Joined in on that one. Pop and wipe clean with paper towels. Yes, or a microfiber rag instead of using a bunch of paper towels. Let's see here. Oh, somebody was requesting to join. I didn't catch that. I thought it was a question. If you're requesting to join, shoot it over again. See what's going on there. We got Washington State, Central California, Boulder, Colorado, Oakland. Let's see here. We got a question. How long until you do your second watering? How much do you let your cubes dry back? The exact protocols are in my guide on the watering for the 14 days, but roughly speaking, about a weekend would be the second watering. And cubes aren't really drying back until they're fully rooted, then they're drying back. Prior to that, it's a very minimal dry back because there's not a full root system to drink up all that water. What are indicators or warning signs in the first week? Brian 3301, if you don't mind elaborating on that a little bit. What's the best for root algae? DWC and light was getting in. Get rid of that light, right? If you want to kill back algae, I like using Xeritol 2.0 as a solid knockdown. And then you could stay up on, whatever low dilution or low ratio of hypochlorous acid, a line cleaner, or Xeritol 2.0 to run consistently throughout. We'll get that knockdown, clear it out, eliminate the light, and you should be money. Let's see what else we got here, guys. Let's see. What would cause the cut end to form a wet blob of a callus and not root in an arrow cloner next to perfect rooted clones? Little nuances like that where you're like, dude, the rest of them are great. I just have these two random things that aren't working. If you got some random spots that aren't working, you have to dig into that little area, that little corner. Maybe it's, getting more direct spray from the little sprayer. Maybe it was contaminated going in. Maybe it's from a different mother plant. But if it's forming a callus, it's making it through that first stage. But if it's not rooting and getting like a wet blob, like mushy, I assume, then you got some pathogen pressure from somewhere and something, especially constantly hitting it in an arrow cloner. So dive into that. We got Canada, LA. What is aerobic bacteria in clones? I'm not sure the exact definition of that. Um, Maybe if you got like a specific situation or specific kind of situation you could describe, we could dive into that a bit more. We got DC in the house. What else we got? Let's see here. And I got the questions from the story and the post written up here, so I'm gonna dive into those questions too as soon as I catch up over here. Are you doing a sulfur soak of cut material prior to placing in cubes? No, I'm not. I'm doing a different kind of dunk, different product, but I'm not doing sulfur. I've never really liked particularly dunking with sulfur before a rooting process. Excuse me, especially if like they're going to be under light right away. They're not going to be able to be under light right away, so that already starts messing with my rooting process. So I don't do sulfur, but I usually do something with very little residual. I really don't want anything to carry on too long in that rooting process. For me, I like just doing stuff with 24-hour residual kind of a situation, or once it dries, it's kind of done. So it's not too intense on the clones. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're joining in from. We got Ecuador. We got Ontario, Canada. We got a question. Let's see. What can we do to make pack prices great again? Make the best clones that you can. Grow the best flower that you can. And best flower will always command the best prices. See, Vibe Tribe. What's up, Vibe Tribe? What are you smoking on? Smoking on a combo, a little mix of some Julius Caesar and some Yahimi. Good little combo. We got GR Michigan. I assume Grand Rapids, Michigan. Do you scuff your cuts before you dip them? Good question. No, I don't. And I was just doing an interview with a really well-respected IPM specialist, and we're touching on that scraping. And what you're doing is, every open wound is more susceptible to pathogen pressure. So the least amount of wounds that you could put on your plant, the better. So not doing that scraping is a huge way to help prevent an easy access spot for pathogens in your clones. Let's see what we got here. We got a question. Any non-snake oil products or recommendations to use when transplanting clones into cocoa? Doesn't matter what you're transplanting into. I assume you want some sort of root inoculant, some sort of trichoderma, some sort of mycorrhizae, some sort of root stimulator. None of those things are really snake oil products. So get your favorite, root stimulator, whether it's powdered or liquid, and blast the roots with it during that transplant watering, and you should be rocking. Let's see, what do you think about the strain Gary Payton? Have you ever tried two different phenos as far as it could have a different taste profile? I've definitely tried the strain. I haven't tried a bunch of phenos and done like a test on it, so I'm not too sure on that, buddy. Do you use any foliar sprays, moms, clones, or neither? I do. If you're referring to like nutrient foliar sprays, I love foliar spraying sea kelp and CalMag, humic acids, amino acids, fulvic acid, things like that. Those common, foliar sprays. Plants love it. Let's see here. I've seen a couple of grows use Clonics solution spray on their domes daily. Do you have any theories of how this promotes root growth? I haven't done a complete study on that, but those foliar sprays are usually just really, really diluted, macro, micronutrients. I do all of those foliar sprays prior to cloning, prior to the plant being cloned for those 2 weeks. So they're already like juiced up with a bunch of it when they go into the rooting. And I don't really need that to maintain the same green growth off the mother plant throughout the rooting process. So I haven't had to rely on anything like that. It may help a little bit, right? In theory, right? More nutrients at the foliar, maybe transfers, more to the root zone, more energy there. But it shouldn't be a night and day difference, in my opinion. We got Oklahoma again, OKC. We got Caprock Family Farms in Lubbock, Texas. So we got a question here. Let's see. If you're trying to make the most compact plants possible or decrease the node distance, do you have tips for that? It's going to be strain dependent on that internodal spacing. If you're really trying to force a really short internode space, you could start with making sure there's plenty of light at that canopy level, so your plant's not stretching. These in between internodes, it's not stretching up to reach towards the light because of a low light environment. So increase that light. It should really stomp down your node growth and genetics. Some people say that the silica helps stop growth or stop stretching and stuff. So make sure your plant's fully healthy. Genetics will take you so far. Make sure there's plenty of light at that canopy so it's not really stretching for any light. We got another question here. Is your clone guide a one-time payment or like a Patreon? Good question. It's a one-time payment. That's it. It's actually, you can use discount code 15K for $50 off your entire order at clonecoach.com. But it's just a one-time fee. Nothing ongoing as of now. Let's see here. Scrolling down. What product do you foliar spray with? I just answered that a bit ago. Silica is supposed to help with stretching. There you go. Let's see here. What area has the highest tags in Canada or the USA? Highest tags? What do you mean? What does that mean? I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. You're trying to join the live. But if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. Put it in the chat. Let us know how wide, how big this team is starting to get. Let's see here. Got a question. How close are your lights to your clone canopies? It's a good question. How close are your lights to the clone canopies? It's usually about 6 to 8 inches. 2 4-foot strip lights, LEDs, roughly 6 to 8 inches above the domes. Is usually where I want to be. I don't want to be higher than that because then the light levels get too low. Slightly closer, maybe, perhaps, but you just gotta kind of watch if it's gonna affect the temperature inside your domes at that level. Maybe they meant tax or prices. Let's see. Let me scroll back up. What area has the highest prices in Canada or the USA? Or the highest taxes in Canada or USA? I'm not sure, man, but California is overregulated, overtaxed. There's state tax, there's a local tax, there's county level tax, there's city level tax, there's state excise tax, state sales tax, and then you get into the federal government side of it, and then you got you're dealing with 280E and paying more taxes there. So let's see, 100 to 150 ppfd. Yeah, roughly. I like to be right about 150. The dome reduces that down 20 or 30 points. But at 150 should be enough to really start kicking in the vegetative state at the end stage of the rooting process. We got San Diego, Illinois, Arizona, Hawaii. We had another Hawaii earlier. Let's see here. Oh, we got some questions stacking up. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see here. So if a cutting is only causing up, how can I get the callus to root clones yellowing? What's your advice? Let me read that again. If cutting is only callusing up, how can I get the callus to root clones? Yellowing, what's your advice? If you got a callus, but you can't get roots, you should begin to decrease the moisture content in your cubes and force roots to strike from your callus, and then slowly transition, decreasing the humidity at your canopy level to force that plant to form more roots, to use the roots to uptake the moisture. So basically start drying it up. Let's see here. How to plan a calendar for mothers and cuttings aligned with the moon phase. I can help you with the aligning with the moon phase. But plan a calendar for mothers and cuttings. Grab the guides. I have some insight on that. Mothers should take you 10 to 12 weeks from clone. Clones are a 14-day process with tasks in those 14 days, so you could kind of just plug that into a calendar pretty easily. When keeping a mother room, what are some foliar sprays organic to add IPM? Thanks. It's a good question. Organic ones is going to be all your organic options. Do compost teas, do sea kelp, do humic acids, fulvic acids, amino acids. And as far as what particular brands, I mean, just see what's available to you. Turn the bottle around, look at the active ingredients, and base your decision off of that. Let's see. How long do you keep some of your mom plants for? It's a good question. It depends. I've kept them pretty long, but a good rule of thumb is, like I said, 10 to 12 weeks to build up a full-size mother plant, and then you want to get another 10 to 12 weeks of full production off of that mother plant, because that's going to be a nice full mother plant. It's going to give you a lot of clones. You should be able to keep her healthy for another 10 weeks, cut every 14 days, maybe every 10 days, and get as much production as you can off of her. Excuse me, one sec. Oops, mic was off for a minute there, my bad. Can the heat mat make clones fall flat after the first day in the dome? Unless your heat mat is set at 90 degrees or something that's just toasting your plants and it dries them all up from the heat. If that's not happening, then no, the heat mat should not make your clones fall flat. If your clones are falling flat within a day, they probably came in, they probably got plugged when they're already kind of wilted, being that you probably had the stems out of water while you worked on them or trimmed them down for too long, causing them to start wilting. As soon as you plug them in, that wilt was already kick started. So you have to play that bounce back game. But let's see here. But if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from, guys. Scroll through the chat and you'll see where everybody's at. Let's see here. Can I spread the HLVD to other clones if they are in separate trays but on the same clone rack? Clone light rack if they are next to each other. Just being in the vicinity is not enough. There has to be a physical transmission, 9 times out of 10, a physical transmission. So like if you use the same pair of scissors to trim your clones on one tray that's positive, and then you don't disinfect those scissors and you go to the other tray and start tending to those, you're causing the physical transmission on open wounds from an infected plant to a non-infected plant. So in that instance, you can, if it's user error, right? But them just being next to each other, no, not enough. See, we got lumens at your clone canopy. It's a good question. It's usually going to hover about 130 to 150 ppfd. Um, that's usually good enough to give it a little bit of veg growth at the end of the rooting process as well. Too high, you may start seeing some yellowing. Um, Too low, you may not get that, vibrant growth, and your growth become kind of real skinny. Let's see here. What is the optimal root zone temperature? That's a good question. So it's going to be, generally speaking, probably in the mid 70s. Because your water temperature is going to be high 60s or low 70s, call it 72 or 70 degrees, maybe 75. But you don't really want to be higher than that, because then there's a lack of oxygen in that water source. So, with that, your root temperature is probably going to be a handful of degrees warmer once it drinks up that water, or that water kind of settles. And it may depend on where your room is set too. If your room's at 75 degrees versus 85 degrees, you're going to affect the root temperature there. So try to be in those like mid 70s would be good. See here, we got a question from Grow Midshigan. Do you use pre-soaked cubes? If not, what do you prefer? Whether they're pre-moistened or not, I always do my own pre-soak, which is, in the recipe in my guide. No matter what, I want to control what that media is starting off with. So I'll pre-charge it or pre-soak it myself. See, Vibe Tribe. Trimming the tips of clones leaf versus not trimming them. It's a good question. I did a video on that a while back ago. And if you just cut the fan leaf at the base of the stem, your surface area of an open wound is much smaller than cutting across the entire fan leaf, cutting that fan leaf in half. You do that with 2 fan leaves, the amount of kind of open wound compared to snipping the fan leaf as a whole is a big difference there. So you could go both ways. The plant's, gonna root just fine. It's not anything like that. It's just how much of an open wound you want to give to your plant, what kind of shape you want, how much foliage you want to leave on there. So you could do them. It's not bad, as long as you're not cutting down the newest growth on there. Let's see. If you're just joining, though, let us know where you're joining in from. Shooting through these questions here on episode 3 of Clone Questions Live. Let's see here. Put a discount code in the chat. 15K for $50 off your order. Clonecoach.com. Yeah, if you guys are hesitant about, grabbing the guide, if you're doing hundreds of clones, it's for you. Look at the reviews. Look at the results that are out there. I know you're going to get results. Let's see. Let me scroll back up here. See where everybody's... Ooh, I got a lot of mist. There we go. Okay. See, but if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. I'm still puffing through this guy. Just doing a lot of talking. And if you guys need testing for hoplite viroid, go to myfloradna.com. Use discount code CloneCoach. I think for like 15 or 20% off your order. And you could order the hoplite viroid test kits and get results in the mail. Check that out, myfloradna.com. Discount code CloneCoach. Let's see. I was asking for what areas has the highest prices for pounds. It's a Clone Coach channel, man. It's not the flower channel, Especially prices for pounds, man. Zero tall strength for Drench and benefits. This is a classic, man. I get this question asked all the time. So, for root drench or a curative dosage, it's going to be 10 to 15 mils per gallon. The water source that you're root drenching with ideally is about half strength your vegetative newts, so roughly 1.5 EC. Then you add your 10 to 15 mils per gallon of xylitol and you root drench that. Double check your pH. If you don't have enough EC in there, you could drop your pH too low, so be wary of that. Don't use RO water with xylitol 2.0 because then you'll get really acidic solution. Benefits, dude, it's a pathogen killer. It's an algicide, fungicide, and bactericide, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll kill all those things. Check Farmer's Almanac for moon phase info. There you go. Community, helping community. That's it. We got salute. Salute to you. What paintball gun is that? One back there? Oh, shoot. I forget what it's called, man. I just got it like a little while ago. I used to paintball a lot more when I was young. It's been a while, but, you know, I got back into it. Wanted to go. Got the whole little kit. So, you know, they've come a long way. It's not a $1,500 gun like they used to be, where that's what kind of the entry-level stuff was for something decent, tournament level. But it's a decent little setup. How can I save my mother plants after they got heavily sprayed with plant therapy? I assume your foliage is a little bit messed up. It's like whenever there's damage to foliage, I've always seen, more often than not, I see a plant therapy bottle nearby. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people are using it incorrectly. I don't know if it interacts with something. Lights off. Lights are supposed to be off or something. I don't know because I don't use it. But every time there's always that correlation, unfortunately. How do you save your mother plants? Just give it a lot of the good stuff. Give it compost teas, give it sea kelp, give it humic acids. Get a lot of those natural, organic, beneficial things and some patience, and plants will grow out of almost anything. We got Pacific Northwest. We got Holland, Michigan. Just subscribe to your YouTube, bro. Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah, I do got a YouTube. Starting to upload a bit more on there. Got a handful of short videos. But I'm uploading these clone questions live. I'm going to be coming out with an interview style show as well. I'm building up some more episodes before I launch. So go to Clone Coach on YouTube and get some more info, man. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for subscribing. Which is better for scissor disinfecting, 99% alcohol or heat? Between those, I would take 10% bleach. That'll kill everything, bro. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and a 10% bleach solution, 10 to 1 ratio, kills everything. Better than those other two options, I'd say, and cheaper, probably. Hey, bud. Hey, what's up? If you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. We're working through these questions here on Clone Questions Live with me, your clone coach. We got some more questions. The questions are coming. I'm trying to get them all done. It's an hour-long show. Got another half an hour, 25 minutes, so we'll keep it going, guys. How short is too short for your cuttings? That's a good question. I like to keep a cutting about 6 inches, 5.5 to 6 inches, because the dome is 7 inches, and I want to keep like an inch or two up top for a little gap in my clones. Have enough stem to, dip into the plugs. Have you seen the shorties post that I have? It's like in the picture of this Clone Questions Live, post as well. I've done little offshoots from, major stems, little offshoots. I've plugged and rooted those. It's really what works for you and for your clients. So there is no clone that's too short, really, to answer your question. What do you think of Clonics solution? I don't use a solution. I use a gel. I don't like to change up what my clones and mother plants are being fed. I don't like to change the food up. Let's see here. How would you recommend cloning just to determine sex for a total noob? So cloning part is the same. You take a clone, you root it, you label it properly, and you continue the vegetative process on that. The plant that you clone from that you want to determine the sex, then you take those plants and put it in a 12-12 situation and monitor, and with the properly labeled plants, see which ones are male, female, go back to your rooted clone of that, get rid of your males or whatever you want to do if you're doing breeding or what have you, and you'll know what sex that plant is, and you'll have a cutting of it. Let's see here. New Zealand, Colorado, Humboldt. We got another Cali, Albuquerque, New Mexico. What else we got? Let's see, we got a question here. How much does the difficulty in cloning have to do with plant genetics? Very little. Very little. There are some outliers, some genetics that are, not the easiest or the prettiest when it comes to rooting them, but the genetic shouldn't be, the end all if you can't get roots. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer, maybe they're not as vigorous, but you should still be able to root a plant in 14 days, really no matter what genetic. And I've always ran a big menu in the nurseries that I've managed, so I've had to deal with a lot of different genetics rotating in and out. So we treat them all the same. As long as it's healthy, has the right procedures involved, you should get roots on those clones, regardless of the genetic. But if you just join in, Kenneth Clovis, much love to you, man. I appreciate you. Everybody go check him out. You got my clones dialed in this round. Very challenging leaving Hawaii and growing in the desert. Thanks, man. Hear that, guys? Like I'm saying, if you're on the fence about it, don't be. Comments like that are real experiences. People are getting results, and this guide will get you 80 to 90% there. You have a coaching call is included to get you that last 10-20% to make sure you get the results that you need. So appreciate that, man. I'm glad you're getting the results. Growing out in the desert from Hawaii, a little different there, huh? Let's see here. What's your mother setup like if you only had, say, 4 mothers? Good question. 4 mothers would probably just take up a 4x4 flood tray. So it'd be 1 light worth of mother plants. I'd probably have them in a 4 or 5 gallon pot, taking up 2 square feet each, nice and bushy, so that whole canopy is nice and full. So the setup's nice and easy. 1 light, 4x4 tray. See, Ontario, Canada. Do you strictly smoke flower? Good question. Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. Some keef, maybe some hash floating around. Sprinkle that in, mix it in, but pretty much only flower. I don't really do dabs. If anything, it's like a rosin, but I don't have a rig. I'm not really incentivized or intrigued enough to go get a rig, so I stick with joints. That's pretty much my jam. And it's kind of faded now, but there's a little joint on the inside of my finger because that's what I enjoy. Little joint tattoo there. Let's see here. How to combat purple striping in Arrow Cloner. When people have purpling stems, we always got to start with the mother plants. Are they experiencing any sort of purpling, yellowing? Are they under LED lights? Are they, genetically have more purpling, things like that? If not, and your plants are going from a green state to a purple state, then your feed is off, your rooting time and the ratio of when they get nutrients, what amount of nutrients, the lights, all those variables are off. You should be able to maintain the same growth that your mother plant was experiencing throughout the rooting process. All we're doing is initiating the rooting process, and switching right back to the vegetative process. That's it. So if you're going from green to purple, I made a little video on that as well. Probably might want to grab the SOP. Let's see here. Opinions on FUP gel. I haven't tried them yet. They've reached out. I've done a little research on them. Seems intriguing, seems interesting, but I haven't given them a shot yet. Let's see here. If you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. We got Las Vegas in the house. We got New York. Oops. Have you ever cloned a cutting from a flowering plant? A couple times. It's not my forte. People do it when they're trying to save genetics and they didn't save it soon enough. So that's usually the case of when that happens. But it should be roughly the same rooting process. The later you are in flower, the more you have to worry about the flower molding up with a high humidity environment. So play that game. Let's see here. Vibe Tribe. Clones hit 14 days and are ready for the 4x4 cube. How long after that do you start topping or pinching the plants? Thanks, brother. About a week in, 7 to 10 days, I will do the first topping, the first pinching of the main node, and then follow that up with, once again, every 7 to 10 days, depending on the branches that start forming. I start topping every single branch as soon as I'm able to. Try to keep it as even as possible. You got that main stem, then you got your side branches starting to form, so top those at the same time. Maintain that main branch from getting too tall on you, so top that again. Let these sides, fill in and kind of meet that canopy level, then top them all again. That's kind of how I shape a mother plant. Once again, it's from mother plants, so, depending on your veg and stuff, I don't know if you're doing it for flower, but that's how I build with the mom plants. Let's see here. Do you use Kiss water? I don't know what that is. Kiss water. What is it? I probably don't, because I don't know what it is. But if you're just joining, got about another 15 minutes here in Clone Questions, Episode 3, Clone Questions Live, with me, your clone coach. I appreciate everybody that's been joining, been watching, been participating. Let's see here. Clonics versus cuts. Either one. Either of those products should not be your end-all, be-all reason on whether you're getting success or not. Okay? You have a lot of other variables involved besides which brand of rooting hormone you choose to go with. If you're saying that that's the only reason why you are or not getting results, then I call BS. Both products work. One may work better for you or for me, and vice versa. So it's up to you. Look at the active ingredient. But there's a lot of other variables involved in the rooting process than to just say, put all of your weight of success on one of these brands. That was like a really politically correct answer, huh? Let's see here. How do you feel about Great White and Clonics Gel? I've heard mixed results. I use both and get really nice roots within 12 to 14 days. So it sounds like the way you feel about it is you feel good about it. You get really nice roots. Great White is a little blend of some mycorrhizae and some beneficial bacteria. It's a powder. It's not really water soluble. So I think it's best in like a potted situation or like a root sprinkle. But it's not water soluble, so I wouldn't really mix it in with my solution. Clonics Gel, I just touched on gels, so get the rooting hormone there and you'll get results, and it sounds like you already are. Flower all day. I agree, man. There's nothing like a room full of flowers. I love the nursery. I love my clones. I love being really on top of it there. But walking into a room full of flowers, week 8, there's really nothing like it, dude. It's the best kind of garden to walk through, pungent, sticky flowers and just like, oh yeah, it's the best. So I'm with you on that aspect. What you smoking on? Louis G562, smoking on some Julius Caesar and some Yahimi. A little blend of both. Direct from a grower, really good friend, grows really good flower. Really terpy, really tasty, really loud. Super loud. It's in a bag and a jar. It's fucking loud. Clonics versus cuts. Maryland, what else we got? How long do you run your mothers? I answered that earlier. Roughly 24 weeks is a short answer. If you want the long answer, just scroll back up. When I replay this video, when I post this video, you could scroll through and find that question. Let's see here. Interesting. Yeah, that's the only reason I'd clone a flowering plant is just to save genetics for some rare occasions. Yep. Let me try to catch up on this here. Sorry for the kiss water question. Water usually has NPK at the bottom of your flood tray that your cubes are barely touching. Usually has NPK at the bottom of your flood tray that your cubes are barely touching. So leaving nutrient solution on the bottom of cubes, I only do that when my cubes have roots already, and they could reach that nutrient solution. Roots could grow really long, and there's plenty of light, and you're in a nice vegetative state. You're changing that water daily. But if there's no roots there, or barely any starting to strike, don't do it. Don't do it. In my opinion, don't do it. Wait till you actually have enough roots to utilize that water that you're leaving there and extend their root zone and start getting really long spaghetti roots. Let's see. Good advice. Thank you, Mr. Loudass. Thank you. Love the series. Thoughts on feminized seeds? I was talking to Masonic, and he said you could. I believe he said you could make a mother plant from feminized seeds. A few people have said that, so I haven't tried it. But if you want to ensure you have female plants, that's the way to go. Sweet, thanks for your opinion. Thank you for the support. Thank you for joining. Thank you for throwing your question out there. Clone Questions Live. Let's see here. Have you used EcoThrive Biosys before? I don't believe so. I have not. Jungle Organics. Smoking wise, because you were talking about dabs versus flower, I'd rather smoke flower as well. Nice. Team flower. If you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. We got people from Canada, Nova Scotia, Canada. We got Hawaii. We had Colorado. We had Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, New York, California, Washington. People from everywhere. Last time it was like a lot of Thailand, the UK, New Zealand. People from everywhere. It's really cool. So if you're just joining, welcome. If you got any questions, throw them in the chat. Let us know where you're joining in from. Put that into the chat. Michigan, we got a lot of Michigan people. Here's another question that was in the comments earlier. Let's see, clone trays with or without drainage holes? Good question. With. So the interior tray is always going to be a tray with holes, whether that's a 50 cell tray, 72 cell tray, like a cell tray with a hole in the bottom, or a mesh tray with openings at the bottom. But the outside tray, the tray that you really handle, is a solid tray. And a little tip here, the double thick trays will still have some bend to them, especially if the plant's and the tray's heavy after watering. If you're going to reuse those solid trays, I would go with a quad thick tray. It's a really sturdy tray, really durable. It doesn't bend, so it's really good for nursery use. So quad thick trays for your solid trays, and yeah, put the tray with holes on the inside there. We got Michigan, we got Maine, we got Mars. Nice. Thank you for joining us all the way from. Are we intergalactic? We're not just worldwide. We're intergalactic. We got Mars joining us. We got New York here. In process of building out new rooms now. I love it. I love it. New Zealand. There we go. New Zealand. Thank you for joining. Montana. Clone Questions Live. Let's see here. Let's see what other questions we got here. Here's one. How early in a plant's life can you take clones? It's usually going to be, 2 weeks for a clone to root, and then you put it into a vegetative state. And the earliest you're probably going to want to clone that's possible is 2 to 3 weeks in. That's enough to take a clone and leave nodes behind to continue to grow that plant. If you're not going to grow that plant out, you could take a clone within probably 7 to 10 days. But that's the entire plant, basically. So it kind of defeat the purpose of you just transplanting the clone and then, taking a whole clone and killing off that plant. It doesn't make sense. So a few weeks into it, you could take your first clone, usually the main stem. Then you're usually going to be able to take the next 4 to 6 branches on the side. So, and maybe 1 or 2 from the middle that you cloned. So 4 to 6 clones after that, and you start doubling up every time. See, we got Montana, we got Albuquerque, New Mexico. Abby Lynn Moe, you've been really active. Thank you for the participation here. He says, we got Gotcha. Thank you. We're big fans of you at Caprock Family Farms. Thank you for adding to the positive informational atmosphere of the cannabis world. You have helped me out so much as a newcomer. Thank you. I'm glad you're getting those, that energy back, because that's what we're trying to put through here. Giving out, give, really. So, Caprock Family Farms, Abby Lynn, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. We're getting close here to the end of Clone Questions Live. We do this every week, every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come with your clones questions, man. And I got, people haven't really tapped into like nursery operations, managing staff, delivering clones, the logistics, sales process, some equipment or build out or kind of staging or square footage or things like that. I've managed a lot of nurseries. I'm well versed. I've sold a lot of clones for my own nurseries, for other nurseries. I know I'm fairly well rounded. Like I said, all I do is nurseries and clones. That's all I've done. So if you got any questions like that, shoot them in. Throw them in. Let's see here. If you're just joining, let us know where you're joining in from. Are we in a market collapse? Not a collapse. Transition. It's darkest before dawn, right? So nothing but high hopes ahead. LVS dub. Yep, the market is starting to turn around, but it'll never be what it was. And that's with everything, right? You don't know you're in the good times till you're out of the good times. So here's a question. How do you avoid humidity shock for rooted clones ready to transplant? Good question. The entire rooting process, you should be decreasing the humidity at the foliage level so that you're essentially hardening off your clones, and they should have the domes off for at least a day or two during those 14-day rooting process, so it's already acclimated to a decreased humidity environment, so you don't experience any shock when going from one room to the next. You may have that issue if your clone room is too humid and it never gets to experiencing anything less than 70 or 75% humidity, and then you put it into a room that has 60 or 65% humidity. That's too big of a jump. So that might be what you're experiencing, but you shouldn't experience any humidity shock for rooted clones during the transplant stage. Jungle Organics, last one. No, man, keep the questions coming. That's what this whole program is about. So, Just NPK or NPK and microbial solutions? I like that question. Both combined. I always do my microbial inoculants every 14 days or so, but when I'm doing it with a full NPK, based fertilizer feed. So I'm not separating the two. They're compatible. I mix them in. It's one drench. They get nutrients, so my plants don't experience any dip in nutrients, from just getting a freshwater flush or anything like that. And all those microbial inoculants allow for all that nutrient uptake. Is there anything you give your mother plants a week/a few days prior to taking cuts, something to boost the cuttings along? For a little boost on the cuttings, it's a sea kelp. That's going to trigger some more of the auxins and the rooting hormones. So that'll be supercharged at the stem and the plant level. And so when you take those clones, you already are kind of charged up with a lot of plant hormones ready to start rooting for you. So sea kelp would probably be the little boost before taking some cuts. LVS Dub, I'm looking to obtain a nursery license here in NY. Look, I do on-site coaching. If you need me on-site to help you build up your nursery business in New York, wherever, go to clonecoach.com. Book me for the on-site coaching. That's super exciting. Super exciting. Like I said, I've sold clones from my own nursery, for other nurseries. I've managed nurseries. I've done all the production. I know what it's like to operate a nursery. So it'll be interesting to see what the rules and regulations and what the market's going to be like in New York. Mr. Loudass, straight from clone to final pot. I wouldn't go from a clone to anything bigger than maybe a 2-gallon pot. That's probably my max limit. And then you got to play with the watering levels and stuff, so you're not over watering and you really ensure the root zone starts to fill the pot. That's probably the max I would go. Let's see here. Why do my clones yellow out and take 3 weeks to root at 5.7 pH? They root in 10 days at 6.0 pH and no yellowing. 0.3 difference in pH should not be the difference on 3 weeks to root versus 10, and keeping everything good. There's probably a lot of other variables involved that are causing anything to take 3 weeks to root. Not a 5.7 pH. That's not going to do it. If you're really, really curious and really want to ensure that you have all of that covered, use the discount code here. Grab yourself the Best Clones Ever SOP, clonecoach.com, and you'll get the results, whether you're at 5.7 pH or 6.0 or 5.8 or 5.9. It doesn't matter. I've started selling clones for a minute. What do you suggest to grow the business? The buses you put, but I assume you mean business. Build a solid reputation. The biggest issue with growers and not having a nursery partner that they work with is they want to and need to be able to rely on you for consistent product every single time that's pest and disease free, that's consistent, where they're not losing 10-20% off of the clones that they order from you. You got to be on it on all aspects. So put your best foot forward every single batch, and people will come back to you. Straight from a clone machine to a 5-gallon pot? No, never. Not for me. What about nematodes with newts as well? Yeah, there shouldn't be any issue with combining the two. Nematodes are usually getting watered in at the top, so you don't need a heavy watering to drench in your nematodes. So you probably could do a standalone because it's not really affecting your root zone really, and you're not like over watering. But even with a little bit of newts, it should be fine. We're getting here to the end, guys, of Clone Questions Live. It's been a fun one, episode 3. I appreciate everybody that's been joining us. Let me see. Got a couple questions here. Let's just try to blow through them here. For mother plants, is it okay to just feed core from Athena and Power SI, new to cloning and mother plants? No. Get your grow and get your core from Athena, if that's what you're running, and feed that at least at a 1-to-1 ratio or the 60-40 ratio for your mother plants. I do cloning with cocoa course, but very often get roots. What am I doing wrong? Cheers. Grab the clone guide. I guarantee you're going to get roots in 14 days. You're going to have roots sooner, but you have a fully ready clone, fully acclimated to full strength nutrients, the environment, and get consistent clones every single time. Go to clonecoach.com. Grab that course, man. Let's see here. But thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody. Let's see. I'm doing cloning with cocoa core, but always some they get rooted. What am I doing wrong? Cheers. I think you just asked that again. Go to clonecoach.com, man. Get yourself the guide. Be the best money you spent in your garden. Clonics are another solution to soak them in. Another solution to soak them in. I don't use a Clonic solution to soak my clones. What do you suggest for springtails for IPM? Just curious. I had a bad battle with a few months ago. I don't have any experience with springtails, so sorry, LVS Dubs. I can't really dive into that. I give you a good insight there. But thanks everybody. I appreciate everybody, man. Thank you to everybody that joined, supported, participated, threw some questions out there. If we didn't get your question answered, or you got another one, just every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Join us here. Join us live. Clone Questions live with me, your Clone Coach. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye. Boom.